Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realms continuing coverage of the Roswell UFO Festival right here in Roswell, New Mexico. We're very pleased to be joined by our good friend Thom Reed. Welcome back to the show, my friend. It's been a long time.
It has been, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Last time we saw you, in person, and had you on the show was at the MUFON conference in Denver many years ago.
Yeah.
And
Symposium.
It's been great to see you progressing things with the UFO Park, all the events that you've been having with that. But the one thing that I really wanted to sit and talk with you about is disinformation.
Yeah.
And the idea of disinformation, your story, and sadly, I hate using the term Berkshire's UFO.
You're right. Name of
but
the TV
sadly,
show,
that's what most people know it as.
I know, isn't that unfortunate?
Because of this realm of disinformation. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the idea of how these things get obfuscated, how a family's story ends up being called something completely different.
Like a story.
Yeah.
Not history.
Exactly. Because your case is fully documented by not only the state of Massachusetts, by the UN. It's one of the great cases in the MUFON library.
And the Roswell Museum.
The Roswell Museum
played a part in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's get into your experience to begin with, and then get into how this experience ended up being twisted kind of by the media.
It was really twisted.
Absolutely.
By the TV shows primarily.
Exactly.
I think part of that is because I'm very factual and I want to stick to I think I have a responsibility to maintain the integrity of what really happened.
It happened to you.
But I think others are looking for more wow because, and unfortunately, if I do that, if I go there and try to expand a little bit or whatever, maybe even my feeling on what happened, suddenly those locals and the Historical Society and the governor's office, they frown upon that because they did not induct like an abduction case. And so when I was actually approached, I had to sign something, believe it or not, like an electronic email, saying that I would not make a fool of them if they moved forward and did something with this in memory of my late father, is how it started. And I agreed to that too, but I also understand that if the state and the Historical Society and many other pillars in the area saw this, were part of it, and are just looking for that validation, and they're putting their trust in me, I can't let them down or say something that might embarrass them, or they lose confidence in me. So I'm always like, hey, this is what happened, these are the dates, you make up your own mind. But the TV shows don't want that. They want the Joe Dirts of the world, and they want to have these people that are just whisk me away like some Harry Potter film. I'm not going to do that.
Well, and it really is one of those, the sensationalism is what sells. It's what makes it sexy, and it's one of the, I say it on the show all the time. Can't we just make science sexy again? Like, you remember when actual science and facts used to be really
used to blow people's minds.
Edward R. Murrow used to be a real sexy dude on TV because he just gave you the facts and only the facts, man. And now, no, we need to lead you down a storyline.
And they always go down the same path. It's like, I'm not part of that, right? I am going to remain factual, true to what happened. And if you want to follow me, great. If you don't, there's plenty of other people there to whisk you away with some silly story.
Well, and it's funny, even within communities, to see people attack you about this, that kind of stuff. Because
I haven't seen a whole lot of that. But.
Well, I mean, it's just the idea that people insist on calling it what it's called by the shows. Instead of what the actual experience.
Let me tell you about that, okay?
What the experiencer says.
Okay, so here's how that happened, right? This is going to blow your mind, all right? Ready for this? This is what I'm going to talk about today, too. A lot of things that I haven't said before. Okay, so I'm going to open up a can of whoop ass right now, okay? All right, so what happened was that Berkshire'sUFO.com was my website, okay? And so Unsolved Mysteries said they would name it after our family because it was our family that got inducted.
The Reed family.
There is no such event as the Berkshire's UFO. That was the name of a website. Okay. And if you could look when I bought the website and when the show came out, it's like a year apart. Okay. So with that said, once they rebranded it, the Berkshire's UFO, now you had all these other people going, I was part of that. And they're like, no, you weren't, because the case revolves around my family's diner, that 1960s diner. That's where those that were working on the space race that had moved in from outside, from Albany, New York, Boston, whatever it was, to work at Sprague Electric, GE, and the rest of them, Command Aerospace, Pratt & Whitney. They were now bored. They didn't have a lot to do. The Berkshires didn't had one radio station. There wasn't even a middle school in this town. That's how small the community was. But there was a racetrack. And my mother used to race horses and everything. So the racetrack was really important in the community. That was their fun. That was their enjoyment.
Sure.
And so these people coming in from outside would go to the racetrack, and then rather than, pay an astronomical amount for a corn dog, they'd go to my mom's diner. And so my mom started getting this influx of people that were coming in from out of town that wanted to talk about the space race in a way that other people wouldn't hear them because in fear of they could lose their jobs because it was a secret space program.
Sure.
So my mom would lock the door and let 15 or 20 people that had moved into the area she'd pump quarters into the jukebox, talk about what they wanted to, but my mom overheard a lot. And so with that, in the sightings we had, the event that we had, we would talk about that with those people who had moved into work on the space race, which kind of fueled the idea of a goodwill message to be left on the moon by Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
Those people who forged that, the people who actually made it, were paying customers in my mom's diner.
Wow.
When we were talking about UFOs and the space race within the same four walls. And I'm talking like for years. So there's this idea that maybe we're the ones who really kind of planted that seed for them to run with, right?
Yeah.
So with that, those who were part of that diner back in the day, those who were, you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Were part of those 3 or 4 years are the ones that are involved in a space race. Like there's a girl on the Berkshire UFO episode on Unsolved Mysteries, Melanie Kirchdorfer. She actually used to come in, and my mom would make her grilled cheese sandwiches with sautéed onions and all that. So my mom remembered her.
Sure.
She was part of that. The other guy, Thom Warner, that had the long hair, the Joe Dirt character, he hadn't a clue until 2015. So here's how he got on the show. Ready for this?
Please.
So how Warner got on the show is that I had been in contact with Cindy Boyle, the segment producer for Unsolved Mysteries, for a couple of years before they ever shot it. It was going to go on NBC, and then it was bought by, Netflix outbid them, right? So then it was going to Netflix. So it took a while for that whole transition to start over and say, okay, we have new film dates, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't know when it was actually going to be. So I was in Puerto Rico with my son on vacation. He took me to Puerto Rico, actually. And that was nice of him, right?
Yeah.
So they were calling me, and I wasn't answering the phone because I didn't have service. We're going back, 10 years or 8 years? Anyway, whatever it was, from when we actually filmed it. And so with that, I get back, and, oh my God, Thom, are you okay? We're sorry to hear what happened. What are you talking about? Oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. What are you talking about? And I'm listening to all these panic calls, right? And we heard you were in jail, but it's okay, we don't care. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm in jail? I said, I was in Puerto Rico. It's okay, Thom, don't worry about it. No, you don't understand. I wasn't in friggin' jail. I was in Puerto Rico, and I had to show, where my hotel stay and all this kind of stuff. Yes, so listen to this, it gets better. So I come to find out that Unsolved Mysteries had called the Historical Society, this one here, right? And a Thom Warner answered the phones with the same first name as mine. So at first, some of these people were like, I want to talk to Thom about the UFO case. Oh, I'm Thom. It could have been accidental. It could have, but then for him to understand what was going on, he went through the files. Because I was supposedly in jail, he had an opportunity to step in.
Wow.
So after that, it gets better. After that, he, because I wasn't there, he actually started filming with them because they were already in town now, and not knowing where I was, they started mixing up their call sheets. We'll shoot this person, we'll shoot that person, because I didn't want to travel all that way for nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of how he got in it. But afterwards, I came on, and I'm like, my mom also was like, I don't mind stepping in too, because we felt like, what are you doing? Because this is our case, it's not his. This is our case, right? And so my mom got in it to kind of to share her thoughts of what happened, because she's getting older and she didn't mind supporting us. But I thought at the end of the day, they had filmed the governor's citations.
Yeah.
They had filmed the Historical Society letters. They had witness statements. And something else that's really interesting they also left out was that the lawyer working for the Historical Society, they weren't, I should say she was working on behalf of the Historical Society, came all the way to Roswell. She was actually interviewed right over there to mine for documentation. It's loud. Want me to wait a second?
No, you're good.
To mine for documentation regarding our case going to the United Nations.
Yeah.
and she found a lot of documents. And so they signed off on it because the Historical Society needs what they call source documents. They can't right. And so she had to look at them, make sure they were real, and then verify the signatures. And once they were like, yeah, this is a copy of an actual document, once they signed off on it and had a stamp by a court magistrate or whatever, now the Historical Society could now utilize those documents or pieces of paper to say, yes, I can now use these as source documents, and now we can rule on this thing. Then I was asked to take a polygraph test, and I passed it. So they had the letters from the radio station, the information that Roswell played in the part of letting that woman mine for information, the 200 and something witnesses, which, that at the time I don't think it was that many, but now there is. And then I passed my polygraph test. And then the fact that our diner was the hub for conversation during a space race and very possibly launched the idea of the goodwill message, the Historical Society said to me, Thom, this is a quote, Thom, people aren't coming to the Historical Society to look at the latest musket ball. We have our own reasons for really wanting to do something with this.
Yeah.
And they kind of pitched it that, we'd like to pay tribute to your late father for advocating something that the entire area was laughed at for a long time. He lost his life on the anniversary of our case being mentioned at the UN, which we don't think is an accident, but I can't prove anything.
Sure.
And so with that said, they said, well, maybe we could do like a little memorial. And that memorial became a monument. And then that got taken from, people were spray painting and graffiti. And so then Ancient Aliens donates some money for a sculpture that was now put in the park. And then all of a sudden, all these people came out of the woodwork, like, I want to support you, I want to support you. Travis Walton has a bench there, Ben Hansen, the daughter of B.B. King, the family of Steve Ray Vaughan, the Roswell UFO Museum, Travel Channel. I mean, it became like this beautiful friggin' area.
Yeah.
It's a little buggy, but it's a beautiful area. And so I think my father would be proud.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing really, if it wasn't for, his passing and the okay to mention this in support of the Hudson River Valley sightings, which, so you've got the Housatonic River and the Hudson River.
Yeah.
And so the reason our case went to the UN was that what happened over the Housatonic River carried over to the Hudson. And that's why we were asked to participate in this United Nations symposium. We were not a front runner. We were just a supporting,
a supporting cog in the machine
of the Hudson River investigations. And of course, with Cash and Landerman came up too, because of the environment that we experienced around our car. So that's really what happened. So what bothers me, I'm sorry, Chris.
No.
What bothers me is that this gets turned into a joke because the whole thing about the Berkshire's UFO, that's not even a real case. Everyone knows it as the Berkshire's UFO. That's my website.
And that's just it. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because one of the things that we talk about on the show regularly is that quest for actual capital T truth. And the fact that if you actively take a trowel to the dirt, it normally doesn't take long to scrape these things away and actually get to the real dirt underneath something. And once again, the fact that your experience, especially the experience that you talk about with abduction, things like that, very landmark. And Stanton Friedman came and talked to y'all, all kinds of things. It's not like it was just reported to the newspaper. This was a massive investigation.
Stan was actually,
all kinds
at
of
the
things.
United Nations with our case was discussed, and Robert Bletchman, my family's lawyer, was actually the public relations director for MUFON at the time, and Don even knew him.
Yep.
So we had ties to the museum from the very start. We never knew it though. I didn't know what a MUFON was.
Yeah.
Well,
and once again, the idea of how this story has been covered, how this story has moved
recklessly
into the modern time. And the prime example, even again, is the recent documentary that came out about the Napolitano incident in New York.
And she had the same issue with Unsolved Mysteries or Netflix too, where they just almost set her up.
Peter Robbins put forth lawsuit against them.
Yeah, I know. I spoke to their lawyer.
I know.
Same thing happened to me. They tell you we're gonna focus on you. What do you want to talk about? Oh, I've got these documents. Can we at least pay tribute to my late father? Sure, Tom, no problem. And then all they do basically is, in a roundabout way, ambush you.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. And the idea of being able to lure somebody in that way,
derail
to disrespect
it's been
not
derailed.
only their experience, but to derail the conversation
right.
to begin with. And honestly, I'm not hugely conspiratorial of mind, okay? However, I will say this. Things like that, things like the Napolitano documentary, things like...
Same network.
Things like Stephen Greer saying that Kathleen Martin's aunt and uncle experience was not real.
Stephen Greer wouldn't know anything.
These
Stephen
things,
Greer is an idiot.
I think these
I'm going to put on record. Stephen Greer is an idiot. He's an absolute asshole.
Well, and it's one of those...
How's that?
Hey, how are you going to plant a memory
right?
for a trope that doesn't exist in society yet?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like alien abduction wasn't really a hot topic conversation at the time of Betty and Barney Hill's abduction.
Right. Yeah, come on. It was before anyone even knew what a gray alien looked like.
Exactly.
Whitney Strieber's book Communion didn't even come out to the 80s, right? And our case and hers. Now, if you look at I'm derailed a little bit.
Please.
But if you look
not even derailed.
Okay, if you look at our image over there, the body looks completely different. But if you look at the head, that was drawn when I was 10 years old. And if you look at it, it's not that different from what people experience today. That was drawn back just right after the Betty and Barney Hill thing, which nobody had an image in their head yet of what these things look like, right? Because back in the day, if you look at the old black and whites, there are all these monsters, all these outfits.
Absolutely.
If you look at the head of that thing, it looks like a gray alien.
Yeah.
To this day.
Well, and that brings up a really interesting point, because right over here is one of my favorites, Gort. I've got little Gort in my pocket. But, until those things...
That could be a song, Gordon in my pocket.
Until... Don't make me. Until those situations, until experiences like that was the idea of alien.
Right.
It was mechanical.
Yes, and look at that. And look at that, right?
It was something totally different. We have that up on screen. We'll take a picture and put it up on screen so the audience can see it.
But this is what I mean about when you have those, Kathleen's family and those who have really had an experience. I think it's about time to stop. Turn it into a circus. I mean,
that's right.
Just listen to what the person has to say.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree or believe in it. It's up to you to make your own mind. Yeah. But these are facts, but they get so convoluted, right? That's it. And then you have those people. I'm going to go back to Stephen Greer, right?
Yeah, sure.
That he'll go on a podcast or whatever, making it look like he's being interviewed by somebody of importance and say, I was offered $1 billion not to say this. Are you kidding? They whack you for 500, right? Yeah. A lot of people would. I know people that whack them for $500. I mean, come on, don't, because if you want to get away from skepticism,
that's it.
Stop polluting the topic.
Thank you. Crisp high five.
Right.
Absolutely. Because,
Thank you.
And that's just it. It's one of those, it's hard because science is now interested. And it's really interesting. I'm a big proponent of the change to UAP.
You are.
Because it brings anomaly into it, and that is full on a part of science that they have to eliminate from their data set.
You don't think that UAP was kind of a spin to say later on, we didn't lie about UFOs because we didn't refer to them as that?
Oh, no, absolutely. That was fully the reason for changing the nomenclature to begin with was, now we don't have to report it. We've got this new system that we're to ATIP, everything else. So we're going to change it to UAP so that, yes, we do not have to fulfill a FOIA request. By the Black Vault. When the Black Vault comes and says, we want this UFO thing.
We don't have to do anything. We didn't refer to it as that.
Absolutely. However, I think what it's also done on the flip side, because sure, Arrow, very shammy in a lot of ways. I think it's beautiful that we now have a unified system of reporting that will not take people's clusters or wings.
Is it going on one?
It's coming on it. You have to go speak here in just a minute.
I do, yeah. I'm just looking at that real quick.
But that's just it. It's the fact that it brings anomaly and a part of science into it by muscle. And now science can't ignore it.
No.
Because anomaly and phenomenon are part of scientific
what do you think is
study.
going to happen with the stories now? Because now we're going to show this is really what's happening. Like, if you look at our...
Now it's the military saying we planted all those stories to cover up our stealth technology.
I'll tell you why that's not true either, though. Because I don't even think we were able to back engineer anything. Because I've heard from members of Congress that they do know where there is a particular, craft. And I'm here, this is firsthand.
Yeah.
And they can't access or penetrate the outside shell of these things. So I'm wondering, are we really back engineering or are we mimicking?
Exactly.
I think we're mimicking.
Yes.
Not back engineering.
I would tend to agree with that.
Okay,
in
cool.
a lot of ways. And I've said it on the show regularly.
Yeah.
I think that there is a 95 percentile of what is seen is ours. But there is still a 5 to 8% anomaly
that we can't explain.
That is not.
That's off-world
what
for
we
sure.
need to study. So.
And by the way, I've never actually said I was abducted. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because we were extracted from the vehicle by government.
Yeah.
And the ignition on our car was turned off when it was running. Headlights were off, and my mother and grandmother were reversed in the vehicle when we came to. And we all came to within like 5 minutes of each other. We didn't all come to at the same time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so that's why I've always said I wouldn't take that leap. Because my gut tells me that government was involved with all the government in the area and everything happening at the same time, the space race and all that. Chances are it wasn't. We saw something, we were part of something. I remember seeing something off-world or an entity, but I think we were an underground base or something. I don't know where, I can't, obviously, but I would say government took us from the car because that seems like human error.
Yeah. Well, and Tom, it's kind of beautiful to hear you say that, because one of the things we say on the show all the time is just because what you have in your red circle on your picture has been proven to be something else does not remove your experience.
Right.
It doesn't remove that moment that changed your life and widened the keyhole of your perception. And even though this memory years down the line is something that you've thought about it in a different way,
right,
it doesn't subtract the experience. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change the way that night changed you. And that's a beautiful thing to hear you say.
And we're all part of a bigger picture.
That's it. Hey, thank you as always for your time, my friend. Let everybody know where they can go to keep up with everything that is Thom Reed and UFO Park.
Well, actually, berkshiresufo.com is where you can find me, or ufopark.org. A lot of information is there from the government, those emails and that correspondences that I've had and everything else. You can find all the facts right there. So berkshiresufo.com or ufopark.org.
Absolutely. Thom has to go speak.
I do.
Well, he does that. I
just kind of did as like a warm-up. I'm going to say the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So while you're online checking out everything from Thom Reed, UFO Park, and BerkshiresUFO.com, make sure to stop on by CuriousRealm.com. That's where you can like, follow, subscribe. That's where you can find all of our interviews from great events such as the Roswell UFO Festival right here in Roswell, New Mexico. Stay tuned for a continuing coverage, everybody, right after this.
Thank you.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at CuriousRealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is CuriousRealm.com/store.